To you, Stephen. Where are you going to start us off?
We're starting with the company that employed Edward Snowden, this man at the centre of the US surveillance programme leaks. Booz Allen Hamilton is their name. They're a management and technology consultancy firm. Their main client is the United States government. They work with nearly every federal agency, from the Environmental Protection Agency to the Department of Homeland Security. Now, they're one of a number of private contractors whose profits have exploded since the huge rise in US intelligence spending since the early 2000s. The company employs more than 25,000 people, many of whom who work in the government offices where they're contracted to provide services, and many have the highest level of security clearance as well. The company recently signed a 5-year contract with the US Department of Defense, estimated to be worth some $5.6 billion. Now, intelligence services like those that Edward Snowden worked on make up 23% of the company's revenue in the most recent fiscal year, around $1.3 billion worth.
And how's the company reacted to him revealing his identity?
The companies confirmed that Edward Snowden worked for them for less than 3 months, it must be pointed out. He did work with other agencies in the National Security Agency. They say that reports he has claimed to have leaked classified information are shocking, and if accurate, the action represents a grave violation of the code of conduct and core values of our firm. And they've said they will be working with the authorities as this investigation proceeds.
Okay, next up, Japan, where the government's economic policies have got another boost.
That's right. These are growth figures revised upwards for the first 3 months of 2013. The growth was 4.1% in Japan between January and March, higher than had been previously expected. This gives Japan the highest rate of growth in the G7 group of industrialised nations. Good news for the Japanese Prime Minister Shinzo Abe, shows his massive stimulus policies are working.
Okay, and how's that been playing out on the markets today?
Very good news for investors in Tokyo. The Nikkei closed up 4.94%. The other Asian markets digesting news from Beijing over the weekend that their export growth has been slowing down. Trading in Europe has just begun, a mixed start to the European market trading this week. Here in France, some good news for a change. Industrial production up 2.2% in April after falling slightly in March. Not helping the CAC 40 this morning, though, which opened in the red.
Not great news for air passengers here in France either.
No, indeed. A 3-day strike by our traffic controllers starting. And this is over a dispute over proposed EU reforms of the sector. Now, France's Civil Aviation Authority has asked airlines to reduce flights by 50% over this period, over fears of disruption. Unions aren't happy with proposals coming from the European Union for what's called the European Single Sky Project. This is the idea they'll harmonise air traffic control over the whole of Europe, but unions in individual countries that provide air traffic control services are afraid that this could lead to job losses.
Okay, talking of which, unemployment in Spain is now over 27%, with more than half of young people out of work. It's led to more and more Spaniards choosing to leave the country. Moroccans used to come to Spain for the same reason, but now the trend's been reversed. Josh Vardy has more.
The coasts of Spain are only 15 kilometres away from Tangier in northern Morocco. For years, they've been seen as the El Dorado for many here hoping for a better life in Europe. But now there's evidence that the tables have turned. Unemployment at almost 30% amongst the adult population in Spain has made working across the bay in Morocco a more attractive prospect. Architect Massimo moved here some time ago. He says he's seen a rapid change in the situation of Spanish visitors.
Before, Spanish people used to get here convinced they could buy Morocco. Now they come asking for help, offering to work at the same rate as the Moroccans.
An hour down the coast lies the quiet town of Tetuan, where Salvador's now made his home. This Spanish metalworker spent many years looking for a job in Malaga.
I could have stayed in Spain and lived with my parents like I was a child, but that wasn't possible. There's nothing over there. But here there's work, and I love it.
The nearby church acts as a rallying point for local Spanish expats. Each week they gather to talk with friendly faces and look for advice. The Catholic Association's president says he's worried about the growing number of Spanish people in the area.
There are loads without full-time jobs. We'll see what happens. But I hope there won't be any Spanish expulsions. Not so long ago, such a thing was unimaginable.
In 2003, 3,000 Spanish nationals officially lived in Morocco. Records show that number's now increased to over 10,000.
Finally, Stephen, female CEOs, there aren't many of them, but they are well paid.
Yes, this is a survey coming from the Southampton School of Management in the United Kingdom. They've been looking at the pay of the CEOs of the top 350 companies listed on the London Stock Exchange. And what they found was that the female CEOs were paid on average €2.1 million per year. That compares to 1.5 million average for the men. Now, the explanation is quite simple. There are only 11 female CEOs in the top 350 companies, and the pay differential of women being paid higher is against the trend across the whole of the economy, where women are paid 15% less for the same work as their male counterparts. Now, the researchers have explained this by saying that that it could be down to performance-related pay as well, that women perhaps are performing better in those roles and thus being paid more for it.
For that roundup of the business news, our thanks to Stephen Carroll. Time now for our international press review.